Hi everyone. Over the past 6 or 7 months, I've been doing travel photography uh, more seriously, and it's beginning to take quite a surprising amount of time of my life. And I don't think that most people understand what goes into these kind of photos, so I figured that I could start showing you not only where I live, which is Stuttgart, Germany. I could also show you how I create these photos and take you along with me and show you how these photos are made and the whole process behind them, and along the way just maybe teach you a few things about photography or about being in another culture. And this is just my first introductory video, and I'm sure there will be other more professional videos along the way, but this will be my first official video for Hunter Bliss. Let's get started, kinda. All right, so the first part I should explain is probably what I use on site. And since today I'm going to the Stuttgart Stadtbibliothek, I don't think I actually need that much. So some of the things that I bring is, where could we start? I'll start at my things that I put at the bottom of my bag. I have a regular backpack. I don't have a camera bag because I travel and I have to bring clothes and toiletries and all that sort of stuff. So I stick with just a regular backpack and it stays pretty light. Uh, the first thing I bring is my 70 to 300 millimeter objective. So many. I live in Germany. I don't speak English often. um, and that's, I don't think I will need it in this kind of situation very much. It's basically architectural photography that I'm doing. But I like to take it just in case there are any sort of creative ideas I might have when I see something. Next thing I will need, which I probably will need this time, but I don't often use otherwise, is a flash. And there are certain techniques that one can do with flashes in architectural photography that really create good lighting. And maybe I can explain this while I'm there for the camera. What else is really important? Always bring this with me just because I really like it. It is, you've probably seen it in my photos, it is a glass sphere. And it makes really awesome photos. I never know when I'm going to use it, but it's a really nice to have with me in case I do want to use it. And the bag is broken. Cool. Didn't know that. This is the case. This is the case for my Indy filter. It's a pretty cheap one, and I actually use my Indy filter as my lens cap because I lost my real lens cap. What else do I use? This here is a battery-loaded remote flash stand. This is the flash remote that goes on top of the camera, and this is the flash stand for the flash. I will bring this with me, definitely. I will need that. Also, probably most important for landscape photography and cityscape photography, in my opinion, is a good remote. Until about 2 weeks ago, I think when I first shot the pictures in Friedrichshafen, that was with this. No, that was the last time I used my last remote, which was a cheap little Amazon remote, and it is much easier when you can take bracketed exposures at continuously constant times. So I always take this with me, very important, and I will definitely use this today. Put this in my bag, take all my school stuff out. This is the same book bag I use for school as well. I've actually had this book bag for, I don't know, 3 years, and it has not lost any sort of quality. It's amazing. I love this backpack. All right, we have this. These are your rate cards. You can use these to
adjust your colors to achieve a more realistic thing. But to be honest, I don't really use them that often because my images have pretty vibrant colors that aren't necessarily exactly what the camera sees, or nor do I want the colors to be totally accurate. This tripod is pretty amazing, and the camera is actually sitting right now on a tripod called the Manfrotto Pocket Stativ. I don't know what it's called in English, but this tripod is a newer something or other, and it was like 60 euro and is amazing. It even has a ball head here, which is not your standard Best Buy tripod ball head, or head in general. Normally I keep the tripod base on the camera, but since I'm recording myself this time, I'm using the small little pocket tripod. And what else can I show you? Batteries, of course. Lastly, aside from the camera, I always take the charger for the batteries and 2 extra batteries for my battery grip, which takes 2 batteries. And that pretty much guarantees that I can record video and shoot photo all day. And especially if one of the batteries dies, I can charge it anywhere I can find an outlet, so that makes it pretty versatile. Otherwise, the things that are on the camera that you can't see, they also come with me, and that's pretty much it. There are a few cables in there, SD cards. Yep, I think it's a pretty good summary of the stuff that I bring. Just so you have an idea of the equipment required to take these photos. It's also worth mentioning, this video is not going to get into detail about the mechanics of a camera. I have the intention with this video of showing people just a little bit more about how I create my photos, and sort of the beginning of showing you the adventure aspect of the photography that I do. And technical terms like shutter speed, ISO, aperture, I will not exactly explain what they do yet. If there really is interest in knowing what these things do, I can teach that later in a controlled environment. But I'm just going to explain what options I choose at the Staatsbibliothek and not explain what they do exactly. Just so you're aware, this is not exactly an actual photography tutorial, but to just give people a better idea what goes on. So along the way, I am just going to give you a few impressions of where I live. But I enjoy listening to music while I'm on the way, so I'm not going to do a lot of talking. I will see you in 30 minutes.
我们都有问题，都很难入睡。我们都有问题，造成很多误会。我们都有问题，围绕着是非，我们都不知道怎么处理我们的问题。我们很像，都说我们没有问题，也都坚持我们不一样。隔着防备，却不知不觉被影响。其实我只想对你讲，我们都很好，我们都不好，我们让彼此难过，到底算是谁的错？别争了，我们都很好，我们都不好，那些伤害人的话，那些只是气话，其实都别说了，因为我们都有问题。因为我们都有问题。我们知道自己弱点，但说的坚强。遇到的证明题都觉得牵强，但为了阐述我的理想，激昂的演讲，也为了攻破你用力的回响。 我们那些很扯的过去，成为彼此批判的字句，用我的秩序镇压是党的胜利。战火烧过之后，剩下仿的正义。不同的个体，不同的灵魂，却总要对方了解自己，特别是情人。我们的争吵亦是不红的新闻，我们让嘴用来伤人，不重视亲吻。针锋相对的刺猬，潇洒的话是滋味。我们的智慧是没法为彼此交换位置，一直只想对峙，忘了尊严和面子是两回事。我们都不好，我们让彼此难过，这些到底算是谁的错？都别争了，我们都很好，我们都不好，那些伤害人的话。
So I just recorded this whole scene without actually hitting the record button. So let me repeat. I have to speak quietly because I'm in the library now. And the image that I have in my head, which of course you can almost see here, I have it almost set up, but it's a little bit further away from the railing that I would like it to be. So I will move the camera up this way, make sure my lines are straight by making sure the camera is level, and then choose an aperture of around f11 because it seems to be the sweet spot of this lens. I'm not going to choose something like 5.6 or 22 for long exposures because those will result due to diffraction in very soft edges. Once I have my shot set up, I'm going to let the camera take 3 exposures, the 3 exposure brackets, 2 over and 2 under and normal exposure. And I'll let that run about 15 minutes with this remote. And then I can show you in post-processing how I can take out the people in the photos. So I actually took this shot about an hour ago, but I figured I would come back and explain to you exactly how this worked and also give you an actual video of this view because it's probably one of the most unique libraries in the world that I've ever seen. So with this, I actually experimented with horizontal, so landscape and portrait orientation, and it turned out that portrait orientation worked best. And once I had that set up, I once again used an aperture of something like f11, and the shutter speed when you're using a tripod doesn't really matter as long as you can keep the ISO at a very low number. So the lowest my camera goes is 100. I wanted to keep it there. The shutter speed ended up being like 1/5 of a second. And then I took, once again, 3 bracketed exposures over a span of maybe 30 minutes to really get all of the people, all the spots in the library where there were previously people empty, so I could just layer them in Photoshop and take out all the people, which I will show you in post-processing. But that's how this photo works. I also, on the floor below me, did a panorama, which involves taking portrait orientation photos one after the other and then blending them together in Photoshop. I'll also show you how that's done. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it for this certain location. I'll go last stop to the Dachterrasse, where you will see the landscape of Stuttgart, and I personally would say that I should have come here at a better time because I don't find the lighting outside very dramatic. It seems pretty typical, a very sunny day. There's some interest in the sky, but not a lot. And I'll show you that. So, as you can see, it is really damn sunny out here and I can barely see my screen, but luckily I have sunglasses and I can make it work with my hands. But this view that you have right here, I would call a pretty typical landscape, daylight landscape photograph. I don't particularly find the lighting interesting. I don't think the sky at this point is very interesting. Earlier there were lots of clouds. I got some photos of that point, but I would consider it a mistake to come here in the middle of the day, especially on a cloudless day, to take a landscape photograph because it might be kind of boring and have a lack of texture and visual interest in the frame. But this is fine. I did some bracketed exposures here. I didn't do a 30-minute long session of bracketed exposures. I did 6 bracketed exposures, and I'm going to rely pretty heavily on post-processing to make those photos really dramatic and stand out. The 3 views that I showed you and explained here are going to be the 3 main photos that might be portfolio ready. And between that, I've been taking shots of the library that I find interesting as a sort of buffer for the periods in which I'm not taking trips, because I do have other priorities. And it's important to spread out your photos on social networking websites so you can keep the interest high over a long period of time. And I'm not going to talk about those photos because they're a mix of shots I find interesting, but not necessarily magazine front cover shots. Bracketed exposures, regular exposures, panoramas, all sorts of interesting stuff. But these 3 shots are pretty much the main ones, and I think that they're a good summary of the work that I've done here today. All right, so now I'm just going to show a quick time lapse of what the retouching and editing looks like for at least one photo. And the photo I ended up choosing was this one that you can see. It wasn't actually too bad with people. I luckily did not see too many people in the library when I was taking that shot, and I only needed a few layers to get rid of all the people. And here you can see that I'm trying to load the different exposures as layers in Photoshop, which is the first step to creating masks with which I can basically erase the people. Certain comments about how the picture taking went that I may have forgotten. Firstly, the lens that I'm using on my camera when I'm taking these pictures is not the 70-300. This is a Sigma 17 to 70 millimeter 2.8 to 4 contemporary lens. It's really great, even though it's pretty much limited to crop sensor cameras. I like it a lot for my T50-200, and it works really well. Really sharp. The pictures themselves the results were pretty nice, but I would not actually say they're my best work because I could have chosen a better time to go there. But, you live and you learn, and this process is definitely a huge learning process, and I'm learning a lot. And if I could have done it again, which who knows, maybe I will do it again, I would have gone later in the day toward the beginning of the blue hour, which when the sun starts to go down, because I would have rather had the artificial light of the library itself on the books, because it looks great. I've seen it before, and it looks very nice compared to daylight from above, even though the daylight from above also looks nice. Yeah, what else? I don't think there's too much else to mention here. I can just give quick comments on what's going on in the editing process. Basically, as you can see, I moved all of the people away using the clone stamp tool and masks. Right now, I'm correcting the geometric distortion and the alignment. It was taken a little bit not level. Especially this image. This image had the camera facing at a pretty steep angle downwards, so getting the lines vertical is pretty much not going to happen. I could correct it, but I didn't decide to do it with this because I would have lost too much resolution. I put all of them together, all of the images together, and have one base exposure with no people. That's what's going on right now. And I'm correcting that exposure with Lightroom with some basic touches like the exposure itself, increasing the exposure, making it a brighter picture, because I wanted to more nearly approach the white that I felt while I was there, felt and saw. And now I'm going into what's called the Nik filters. It's a free package from Google. of really intelligent filtering tools that will allow you to really make the colors pop and bring out in the image what you really saw in person. And that's what I really like about the Nik filters. Right now I'm dealing with tonal contrast and basically just strengthening the image itself and the colors, because I personally don't think the cameras are very good at reproducing what I can see with my eye or feel when I'm in a certain location. The image itself, this is Define. This is another Nik filter. It allows me to sharpen the image. There is still noise even at ISO 100, and I'm taking it out right now with this step. And I think after this step, I do sharpen it again with an output sharpener, or maybe not. I forget if I kept it or not. From that step, the image itself is starting to look pretty finished. It keeps going through. It's hard to remember all the steps that I took. Yeah, checking the edges to make sure they're still sharp. That's me applying sharpening inside of Lightroom. This was me creating a quick panorama. Basically, there's an add-on in Lightroom. You can right-click on all of you can select the multiple images that you created, the portrait images that I explained earlier, and put them together using Lightroom automatically. But this takes quite a long time, which is why I went ahead and did that, because I know I'm going to be waiting for a while. And this is me exporting the final image, and this will be the image that I basically display at the end of this video, because it took me about 30 minutes, 45 minutes to do all that editing, and I don't have that kind of time to show you every image. But this is probably the image that I will put on my portfolio, and it is exported. And it's done. So I hope this gave you a good idea of what happens on an average shooting day for me and what kind of work goes into these images that I create. Because until now, I think my audience hasn't really understood how hard I actually work for these things, because they only see the image and not the stories that go behind them. And that does bring me to my next point, which is Patreon. Since 2 days, I have this platform called Patreon, to which you can support me and donate monthly $1 or $2, however much you feel necessary, to help me slowly fund myself in doing this travel photography. And the benefit of you doing that would be full resolution images that you can keep, prints, questions to be answered about the culture that I'm in, all sorts of things. But I'll put a link in the video, probably at the bottom here, with my Patreon link. And it would be fantastic if over the next year and a half, I could start building a solid basis on doing this travel photography, which I love. And I hope some of the love was transferred through this video, or shown through this video, how much I love doing this. And yeah, I think that's pretty much enough for my first video. I think I'm going on 30 minutes or something here, but I really hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing your reactions about the pictures when all the pictures are released. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.